Okay, so we're gonna take our bodice piece and set it aside. And now we are going to be working with our skirt piece. So with our skirt piece, it's a circle skirt. It's a full circle skirt, okay? So it's gonna really give it volume when we add our tool. Okay, but we need to do one thing before we move too far forward. You see how it's a big circle? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut one of these seams, just one, so that it's open in the back, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna hold it, push up against it, and cut. Just like that. So that now it's all one big piece. See that? Pretty, pretty, pretty. So it's a big circle. So a circle skirt is, it's just a big circle. Okay, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to mark my lines of where I'm going to sew. That's what I do. All right, so I didn't mention this earlier, I'm so sorry, but you're gonna need some kind of a measuring device or a ruler or something. So from the bottom edge, I'm going to come up, let's see here, 3 inches. Let's do this at 3 inches. Make a line. Hopefully you guys can see that. And just every so often make a line at 3 inches. So this is just a bar of soap. It comes off really easily. It doesn't stain. It washes away. Very inexpensive. You don't have to buy fancy chalk. All right, so I'm just gonna keep marking 3 inches along the way. Okay, so there it is. Right, all the way around, I made a mark 3 inches around, so you can kind of see what that looks like. See my marks? Okay, so I'm also going to mark in back here 1 inch. So my ruler is 1 inch, so I'm just gonna mark 1 inch here. And that's where I'm gonna stop and start my rows. So at the back, it's going to overlap on itself. So I don't want the tool getting in the way of the back seam and it looking kind of wonky. And I'm just using 1 inch because I don't want it to be too loose, right? So you could do the 5/8 of 1 inch seam allowance if you wanted to. So that's what that's gonna look like. So there's our marks all the way around. So we're gonna do another mark up 2 inches from that one and then 2 inches from that one. And then the last one's gonna be right here, okay? So I'm gonna mark all that stuff and then we'll be back. All right, so we've got everything marked out. So in case you're wondering why we did 3 inches here and 2 inches everywhere else, here's why. Because I'm going to hem the bottom of the skirt before we start putting our tool on, and that's gonna take up about 1/2 inch to 1 inch, depending on what we do. So I'm gonna actually do a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around. And after I do that, then I'm gonna press it on that, what I call a guide stitch. Then after I do that, I fold it over one more time, and that's what it makes a narrowed hem. So that's what I'm gonna do now. I'm just gonna go ahead and do my guide stitch. So now that we've done that stitch all the way around, what that's gonna do is gonna help us go to the iron, right? And then we're going to press it in. So this is gonna be our right side because this is where we're gonna stitch on the tool. So I wanna make sure that I roll it towards the wrong side that does not have any marks. So what I'm doing, okay, so I'm going to take it, I'm going to fold it to that mark, and then I'm going to finger press right now. I'm going to take it to the iron, but I can't take you guys to the iron because we have a class going on right now. You're going to go like that all the way around. We're going to press that down. Once we've pressed it down once, I'm going to go back in and press it again. And that's going to create a nice narrowed rolled hem. Okay, I'm moving you guys a little bit closer so you guys can see what I'm doing here. So I pressed it, but it doesn't like to stay. So you kind of have to maneuver it. If you were working with a cotton right now, it would be fine. But this polyester lining stuff doesn't like to stay pressed. So I'm just going to start it off. And then we'll go from there. Okay. Take my little threads. Put them in between my toes. Hold on to them. And keep it moving. There we go. All right. So all I'm doing is just kind of pulling on it a little bit and tucking it to just kind of get that nice rolled seam. And so that's all I'm doing. You can't do too long of a piece because then it starts going straight and it doesn't hold its curve. Okay? So you want to make sure it holds its curve. Okay, that only took 8 minutes, but it seemed longer. All right, so now that our hem is all sewn, now we are going to start adding our tulle to these lines. So we're going to sew it right along this line. But the first thing we have to do with our tulle is we have to, I'm going to be folding it in half. So I'm going to take the tulle, I'm going to fold it in half because this is 6-inch. So I want it to be 3-inch. So it kind of covers just a little tiny bit right here. And then each one is going to be like a layer of it. So we're going to fold it in half, right? And then sew it. And then we're going to gather it to go on to this piece. So for right now, we're going to set this aside. And I'm going to take my spool, put it aside there. Gonna lengthen my stitch length and just gonna go at it. So this is gonna take a minute, so you guys can come back in a few minutes. I'll show you guys for a little while what I'm doing. All I'm doing is just folding it in half and then stitching. And it's gathering as we go, which is fine. See that? All right, so I'm going to keep doing that, and I'm going to do this for a long time because I need to have, oh, my bobbin went out. I need to have about 60 inches for the bottom row, and then the next row is about 40 inches, and it gets smaller every time after that. So I'm going to figure out what's going on with my bobbin and then keep sewing. All right, so now that I have a good amount already ruffled, what I'm going to do is going to go ahead and line it up on this first piece and sew it down. So I'm going to take it, bring it towards me. I want the ruffle part to go down. Remember what I said, I'm going to start at this line here. I don't want to start all the way Hold on a second. Wow, it kind of got eaten up a little bit. I don't want to start past this line because we want to sew right at that line. So just right at that line is what we're going to get started. And back stitch. And then I really want this to be full. So I'm going to actually start, even with it being nice and ruffled, I'm going to like fold it onto itself a little bit more, even more, because I want this to be fluffy. Each style has its own benefits. So there you go. So I'm going to keep doing this. I'm not going to have you guys watch me do this entire process. And I'm going to do this for each row. I might do another row in between these two rows. I think I'm going to like really stack on mine. Like I said, I really want this to be fluffy. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take, I forgot to hit record for the last part. All we did was attach the rest of these rows and then attached the skirt to the bodice piece. That's all we did. And I sewed twice around. So 1 inch down and then a 1/2 inch down. So I'm making a casing for the elastic to go into. So all we're gonna do now is feed the elastic through the casing.
Are you on camera?
Yeah, come on in.
Sorry, I worked over. I didn't lost track of time, so.
You're fine.
Okay.
Like I'm gonna be like, oh no. Oh, but wait a second. Okay, so now we're coming through to the other side. I'm not gonna say this is the easiest thing to do because it really isn't. If I took the sequins out, it would have been a little better. If I would have taken the sequins out from this area here, but hey, it's good. All right, now we're gonna pull it. There we go. And just kind of work the elastic. Don't lose your other tail. I've done that so many times. Just pull it through and then there we go. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to pull this to the point where I'm going to just slowly tack this in on this side and then do the same thing on this side. So on this side here, it's probably going to be easier for me to just kind of like push this through and pull the elastic in. I don't want the bulk of this elastic being in my seam allowance where I'm going to be doing my, so I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna pull it so it goes in just a little bit. I don't want the bulk being where the zipper is going to be. So see, I can still see it there. So I'm going to kind of pull it on it some more just to kind of really push it in out of the seam allowance. So the seam allowance here is going to be 5/8. So I really want to push that in. Keeps getting stuck over there. Get yourself a little pair of scissors or something and just push it in. There we go. So right there, I'm going to tack it down right there now. So just tacked it there right there. And we're going to do the same thing to the other side. Okay, so now that we've got the elastic in and it's nice and scrunched, now what we're going to do is add our zipper to the back. So you can get yourself an all-purpose zipper. This is what I'm going to use. Or you can get an invisible zipper, either way. For this being a party dress, I'm not going to be too worried about it. She's going to wear it maybe a handful of times, so I'm not going to go through the extensiveness of having to go get a invisible zipper because I have this one on hand, so it's not a big deal. So I'm going to baste it in first with my regular zipper, with my regular foot. Then I'm going to switch over to a zipper foot. And then that way everything kind of matches up. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the lining and push it away. So we're going to pull it away. It's kind of small, so kind of work with it. And then you're going to take your zipper I'm gonna line it up. I'm gonna go a little bit past the top there because I'll take off this little piece here. I'll show you what I do with that. I'm gonna just hold it there in place and baste it in place. You could pin this if you wanted to. I'm just basting at this point, so I don't really, that's pretty much the purpose of me having to do this rather than pin it. That's pretty much what basting does. Basting is pretty much like a temporary stitch that will eventually go away. It's gonna be a pretty long zipper. I could have cut it down a little bit more. I could have extended this up higher, but it's okay. It's still gonna look very cute. All right, so now we're gonna match this side with the other side. So now, like, what I like to do is right here where this seam is, I like to make a mark on this side so that I know I'm matching up the other side to line up right there. So I think it didn't record. So I attached the zipper, I made sure the sides were lined up, and now I'm gonna go back in with my zipper foot because I've just basted it in. I'm gonna make it a lot closer, so all you're gonna see is the teeth. That's all you're gonna see. So I'm gonna switch over to my zipper foot, make sure I can get really close to those teeth, and then two, I'm gonna come in here before I do that and take all the sequence that's in here out of the seam allowance to make sure that it doesn't interrupt the zipper. All right, so there's the zipper. You can barely see it where the tool is because it just covers it up. But then right there, you can kind of see it, just like a little bit of an accent. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we are going to open up the zipper. You gotta be careful because it likes to catch on I missed one sequence right there, so I have to go back in there and take it out because I don't want to have her having trouble unzipping it. But you can unzip it. And you can also top stitch, which is what we're going to end up doing here in a second. Just unzip it. The sequence likes to get in there. It's a good and bad thing about doing it so close. It really catches. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take it this here. And we're going to cut off right here. And then we're going to fold it off like this. And sandwich this in there, but that's why we have to cut this right here. Cut it off right there, and then here you have to fold it over onto itself. If you don't fold it over on itself, it's just going to undo. So that's important. Okay, I'm going to take the lining piece and put it pretty sides touching, and then you're going to sew down close to where you sewed the last time, but not past it. So it's almost like if we're sewing like a little tiny, I mean like a hair next to where you stitched before with the lining. Ugh. My lining slipped on me. So my lining slipped on me right here. So it's not a big deal. I could just go back in there. Okay. Like that. Pull it over. If you want to, you can do some pins. Just holding it like this, holding it. There we go. Make sure you get really, really close. When you get to this part here, I like to fold it up by